today I'm going to do an exploration of World War II air-focused games. When I mean air-focused, I mean in games that really are focusing on aircraft engagements or air operations, and not so much, combined naval and air operations that you saw in the Pacific. So, when I got into war games, tanks and planes and ships, all those things were pretty exciting. I mean, who doesn't love those three elements, especially tanks? But one of the first things that drew me in was the planes, just the aspect of the planes and looking at them and the technology that was involved with it. In fact, my first plastic model, was a Japanese Zero. And if you looked at my glue job, it was so pockmarked that it looked like it had already gotten shot up and shot down in the battle. My second model was a B-24J Liberator, which I still have unfinished. But my lack of modeling skills did not dissuade me from, looking at war games and especially looking at air games. And normally when I go through these explorations, I go through them from the least complex to the most complex. But today I decided I'm going to go through the order in which I acquired these games. So the first one I'm going to look at is Air Force. And I got this in the late 70s, early 80s, and arguably this might be one of the more complex games in my collection. You have Air Force and Dauntless. Now, the Air Force side of it, I kind of have these stored in both boxes. Here's my counters. Not a really great job of sorting them there. The boards are pretty nondescript. They're kind of this beige. There's this little hinge here, although, except for that one right there, all my boards, came apart. But you really don't, use the boards for much other than just the hexes. There's really no terrain or anything on it. The heart of this game is in these cards right here. And when you look at these cards, and here is that good old Japanese Zero haunting my dreams. But you had these, this looks really complex, especially when I was, 11 or 12 or whenever I got this. This looked very daunting at the time. But basically you have speed increments, maneuverability requirements, and your altitude change. And this is going to determine, what your speed is at the altitude, kind of what range you're in, whether maneuverability speed, level speed, or dive speed. That's going to make a difference on which maneuvers you want to try. You have like half loop, half roll, turn or slip or bank. But depending upon what maneuver and what altitude you look at, that's how many spaces you have to go at that speed to before you can perform that maneuver. Then you had your braking factors, and this is like your acceleration and your braking and how much you can do there. Then you had blind spot modifiers, and then you had your characteristics of your plane, wing hits, fuselage hits, cockpit, engine, and so on, and the kind of guns that you had on there as well, and any kind of variants on there. So there's a lot of cards. Dauntless added, I think, 30 more cards, and then added ships and dive bombing, so it really was focusing more on the Pacific theater. But there's a lot of cards here. They're double-sided, and so you got all kinds of different opportunities to play the game. The rules, again, it seemed very complex at the time, mainly because this is a logged movement. I looked at some of my old log sheets here. I played this game quite a bit based on my log sheets here. But it's plotted movement. You're gonna plot what your moves are and what your maneuvers are, and then you'll do your combat, and then you check off the boxes of, hits that you have and so on. And there's different scenarios based on, what aircraft are going against each other, or whether you're attacking like a bomber squadron, or whether you're bombing or the like. So that was Air Force. Again, plotted movement, looked like it had a lot of rich detail to it. It does have a lot of rich detail to it. But games have kind of moved on a little bit from that, as we will see. The next one that I got was a classic. The ultimate, what I call charty war game. This is a solo war game, B17 Queen of the Skies, where you are going to be managing a crew of a B17 bomber on a bombing mission, and you basically are going to be having tons of charts. Here's your board that you'll be working on. Your bomber, this is where the different enemy will be coming in to attack you. You have some of your charts here. You also have kind of your overall bombing mission of where you're going to be bombing and what band you're going to. And then there's the display of your ship there, where you're going to be putting your different crew members, and then marking what their status is, if they get hit or injured or killed. And then you have charts, lots of charts. And this was the classic game. There's a lot of games that have followed since then that are based upon this kind of system, but you're going to be rolling on the charts, seeing what happens, and then, you know, keep moving forward on your mission and hopefully, you know, complete your bombing and get home alive. Played a lot of games of that, and that has like a pad that you keep track of your different missions and what happens and your crew members. And if you get 25 successful missions, kind of like the Memphis Belle, then you win the game. Never was able to do that. The next game that I have really kind of simplified aerial war games. This was Wings of War. It's really based on the World War I series that had biplanes, and then they came out with miniatures, pre-painted miniatures that look really good. And this one is no less impressive. This was the Deluxe Edition, and what you got in here was you've got some painted miniatures. You had your board that keeps track of your different maneuvers. Here's your rules, counters. But what you got with this is you got planes. Here's that 0 again. It keeps coming back to me. You know, that paint job is just a little bit better than what I did. But you have a little tray here that keeps track of some of the stats that you have for the plane. It gets your firing arc, and then you also have different altitudes for the plane as well. But the real core to this game are these cards. Here's your plane. I mean, you can use that miniature, or you can use this card here to move it forward. But you're basically going to be playing these different maneuvers. This is uses the C deck. So these are all C deck maneuvers. And so if you want to do this maneuver here, you match up the blue to the blue, and then you move it forward there, okay? If you want to do a turn or a bank, and you've got all the different maneuvers in the cards there. So, you know, this was, and then there's different, you know, hits that you roll for the combat, depending on the range and the like. So, you know, this greatly simplified the different, you know, the aerial combat, aerial maneuvering. You didn't have to pre-plot your movement and get lost in the notation or the bookkeeping, and was very fun. Very good to look at and very fun. You know, questionable how accurate it was, but still pretty fun. The next one I got was Down in Flames. Now, Down in Flames is a card-based game. And it basically, there's an action deck, and you're going to be playing different actions to maneuver your plane. Each of the different planes have different stats and capabilities. And, you know, based on the action card that you play is going to be based on what maneuverability you play. And the other side can play like a kind of an interrupt card that can change, you know, block the maneuver that they're trying to do, or add to the combat, or what have you. So the real heart of this game is in this action deck and playing these action cards, and then having those match up to the capability of the game, of the planes themselves. And you have all kinds of different planes. There's several different versions of this that add all kinds of different planes to it. But it, you know, this is a pretty good, you know, this is a solid two-player game. Once both sides understand what kind of cards are available and the action cards, you know, this can be very, very tactical in how you're playing your cards. The next one I got is RAF, classic solitaire game. Now, this game, this is an older version. I got this used at my friendly local gaming store. I couldn't resist it because some of the guy made his own tuck boxes and made some homemade counter. I think these are from Variants. So I couldn't pass up on that, right? Because that was all part of the price of admission. But, you know, there's cards that are going to be governing your actions in this game. But this is a solitaire game. Basically, you are the Royal Air Force, and you are going to be defending Great Britain during the Blitz, during the war for Britain over the skies. And so you're basically going to be sending out your fighters to protect these different areas that the Germans are trying to attack. And the Germans are basically the AI, and you are trying to protect Britain. So this is a really great solitaire game. This is John Butterfield, who is known for his solitaire games. Can't get that tuck box back. But, you know, really good game. I got this late. I mean, this is, this is West End Games. I mean, this is probably, I think probably in the 80s maybe, or early 90s. I got this just a few years ago at my friendly local gaming store. The next one that I picked up was Interceptor Ace. Now, this one harkens back to B17. This is a very charty solo war game. You're basically going to be, you're basically a German fighter pilot that's basically, you know, protecting Germany and German holdings in France during World War II. And so you're going to be going on missions to basically intercept bombers and other planes that are attacking, you know, your holdings. And so there's going to be a lot of charts in this. This is a very charty game. Here are some of the charts here. Here's your pilot and crew status, your operation map. Here's your different targets and how you take hits. But you got a lot of different charts. There's going to be all kinds of charts you roll on what mission you go on. And there's all kinds of different planes. This is a Focke-Wulf 190 that you're going to be using, and it depends on what mission you go on, and you're going to be flying out to your mission, and then eventually landing if you're so lucky to survive it. And if you survive it, then you get medals, and you keep on advancing. It has a little bit of an RPG feel to it. But again, this is basically kind of what I call a charty solo game that you know, is a lot of fun to kind of get into, to immerse yourself and kind of get the feel of a German pilot. So you can play B-17 and be the bomber, or you can play Interceptor Ace and be the German interceptor. The last game that I have on my list of air-focused games is Doolittle Raid. And again, do you see a theme here? This is a solo game and extremely charty. This is basically all the preparations of the Doolittle Raid as you get ready to embark on the bombing of Tokyo. So, I mean, the scenario book is, what is the scenario book here, is like 40 pages, and the tutorial is 64 pages. But really, the key to this game are the charts that you're going to be following. Again, yet another charty war game. But these charts are what you really, you follow these charts in a sequential order, and they're going to help you through the whole preparation, the loadout of your planes, the design of your planes, the flying over the Pacific, you know, making sure you're managing your fuel and seeing what kind of encounters you have. And then getting over the bombing site, seeing how you do there, and then the ultimate landing in, here's the bombing sites, and then the ultimate landing in either Russia or China. So this is, if you want to handle all aspects of the Doolittle Raid, and from the planning to the bombing to the landing and hopefully rescue, then this is the game for you. Again, a solo game. And I misspoke. This is not the last game I have. The one game I got before this was Chanult's First Flight. Now, this game here, you might look at it and say, oh my goodness, you've got land forces on this. So how is this an air game? Well, really, this focuses on the air aspect of it. The land forces is kind of abstract, what's going on in the ground, but really what's taking place is up in the air here. And let me go up a little bit more here, and you go, oh my goodness, what are that? So, yeah, those are not mine. Those are my son's. Yes, those are my sons. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But basically, a lot of what goes on here is the air side of this and what's happening up here and how that affects what's going on down here. There is a ground combat table, you know, so, but it is somewhat abstracted. But you know, it's the anti-aircraft table, it's the bombing combat. It's mainly focusing on the air operations that took place during that time. And this game Here's the rules for that. This came in Against the Odds magazine, and I store all mine in these, these plastic folders. So here's your counters that you have in here. But really, this is focusing on the air operations that took place in and around you got Thailand and French Indochina and India and Burma region, mainly over the Burma region during World War II. So that's what I decided to explore today, is my different World War II air-focused games. Hope you found that interesting. If you like, please like this. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Hit the bell so you know when something new is coming out. Let me know what your comments are. What do you think about these games? Do you have these games? Do you like these games? Do you not like these games? What other games are out there? This is what's in my collection. I know there's a ton of other air-focused World War II games. What are some of the ones that I should probably get a hold of or look at, or what you really like? And as always, thank you for watching.